Let's say China.
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 China. China.
There are no storm neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
Go over to China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump's statement, tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes, hello, and welcome. I am James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the only news you need if your name is John, or Paul, or Ringo, or Steve. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of August 2017, and today the stock market is at an all-time high, as we have been reminded time and time again by this guy.
When I say that the stock market is at an all-time high, we've picked up in market value almost $4 trillion since November 8th, which was the election. $4 trillion. It's a lot of money. Personally, I picked up nothing, but that's all right. Everyone else is getting rich. That's okay. I'm very happy.
So there is Donald Trump taking credit essentially for the stock market increasing. But the question is, how much credit does the president actually deserve for making the stock market so strong? He said there that they have increased the stock market by $4 trillion since he took office. And $4 trillion is a tremendous amount of money. The only problem is, when Donald Trump took office, the economy was worth $19.2 trillion. And as of right now, it's $22 trillion. So if you take the $22 trillion and you minus $19.2 trillion, you get about $2.5 trillion, which is still a huge amount of money. And Donald Trump was only off by $1.5 trillion. So that's not too bad, I suppose. So inflating the numbers aside, how much of this stock market increase is really down to what has been coined the Trump bump? And unfortunately for Donald, a lot of analysts and financial types have actually said, well, let's slow down on the whole Donald Trump is responsible for making the stock market fantastic, because it's not quite that simple. And if you will indulge me for just a moment or two, I'd like to look into it, and I'll play some happy music in the background. That way, in case it's boring, you can sort of just tap your foot until we get to something more fun. So, job growth in the country has increased steadily under Donald Trump's presidency. Now, the first 5 months in office, employers added 863,000 jobs to the economy, and unemployment decreased from 4.8% to 4.4%. Now that is an indication that the economy is doing well. But if you look at job growth under the last 5 months of Barack Obama's presidency, 908,000 jobs were added. So it's more, but that's not really what I want to focus on. What that shows is that the economy has just been steadily increasing, and the fact that, President Obama left and Donald Trump came in don't necessarily correlate to making more jobs. It's just sort of the way the economy was going. Now, as far as stock market gains, that gets even more complicated because the stock market is continually moving. It's almost an organic creature. It reacts instantaneously to things. So if there's a terrorist attack, God forbid, the stock market is going to instantly dive. If something fantastic happens, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but if something fantastic happens, the stock market will instantly rise. That's the nature of the beast. And in many ways, the stock market is reacting to what Donald Trump has said he is going to do, such as, cutting taxes. That increases the stock market because companies say, great, taxes are going to get cut, increase it. And then he's also talked about getting rid of regulations on companies, and the stock market reacts positively to that. So we see this bump in the stock market, which is essentially on the intentions of Donald Trump, not what he's actually done. So when you look at job growth, that's where the story gets even more complicated, because job growth is based on real things that are happening, whereas the stock market is a bit more abstract. Job growth is based on things that are tangible, policies that have been implemented and are in effect. So, is Donald Trump right in his assumption that he alone has created massive amounts of jobs? Well, Stephen Moore, who is a visiting fellow at the Project for Economic Growth at the Heritage Foundation, said of that, "It's premature." He said, and I quote, "It takes a while for policies to translate into jobs. Stock markets react instantaneously to things. For the jobs to come back, that takes longer." So what we're seeing with the economy is a stock market that is reacting instantly to things Donald Trump says or tweets. The job growth market, we're seeing it increase steadily, but it is increasing at the same rate it was increasing before Donald Trump took office. And we won't know for quite a few months whether anything that Donald Trump actually does has an effect on the job market. So every time you see Donald Trump send a tweet out saying, "Look this, I've created jobs," stop and say, "No, you haven't. The economy is strong and jobs have been steadily increasing for a while. We don't know whether you've created any jobs yet. That remains to be seen." But today, Donald Trump did do his job when he signed the Russian sanctions bill that was passed overwhelmingly by the Congress and Senate. And the news here is that why the hell did it take him so long? The Congress and the Senate said, "Yes, we agree, let's do this, Donald, sign it." It sat on his desk forever. And then today he said, "Oh, you know what, I should probably do my job. Give me my pen, let me put my enormous signature on that." But he was not happy about it. He even referred to it as clearly unconstitutional. And he lamented that the bill encroaches on the executive branch's authority to negotiate. He then further pissed on Congress when he said, "I built a truly great company worth many billions of dollars. This is a big part of the reason I was elected. As president, I can make far better deals with foreign countries than Congress." And this is one of those few moments in his entire life where Donald Trump has had to do something he did not want to do because other people said he had to. And you can see that this is grating on him. And I got all choked up then, but it wasn't because I was sad, it was because I took a sip of my drink and it went down the wrong hole. You know when you do that and it sort of gets stuck in your throat and it made it sound like I was crying. I wasn't. I'm really not that upset about it. But Donald Trump did sign a bill this morning which made him happy, and here he is announcing the bill.
The RAISE Act will reduce poverty, increase wages, and save taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. It will do this by changing the way the United States issues green cards to nationals from other countries. Green cards provide permanent residency, work authorization, and fast track to citizenship. For decades, the United States was operated and has operated a very low-skilled immigration system, issuing record numbers of green cards to low-wage immigrants. This policy has placed substantial pressure on American workers, taxpayers, and community resources. Among those hit the hardest in recent years have been immigrants and, very importantly, minority workers competing for jobs against brand-new arrivals. And it has not been fair to our people, to our citizens, to our workers. The RAISE Act ends chain migration and replaces our low-skilled system with a new points-based system for receiving a green card. This competitive application process will favor applicants who can speak English, financially support themselves and their families, and demonstrate skills that will contribute to our economy. The RAISE Act prevents new migrants and new immigrants from collecting welfare and protects U.S. workers from being displaced. And that's a very big thing. They're not going to come in and just immediately go and collect welfare. That doesn't happen under the RAISE Act. They can't do that. Crucially, the green card reforms in the RAISE Act will give American workers a pay raise by reducing unskilled immigration. This legislation will not only restore our competitive edge in the 21st century, but it will restore the sacred bonds of trust between America and its citizens. This legislation demonstrates our compassion for struggling American families who deserve an immigration system that puts their needs first and that puts America first. Finally, the reforms in the RAISE Act will help ensure that newcomers to our wonderful country will be assimilated, will succeed, and will achieve the American dream.
Okay, so I played quite a lot of that statement, and let me essentially just paraphrase it for you. If you are a white man from England who is overly educated, come on in. You are very welcome here. If you are not, fuck off. And this, to me, is a very big deal. As an immigrant myself, one of the things I love about America is how anybody can come here. Doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, what colour your skin is, how much hair you have on your head. It doesn't matter. You can come here. That's what America is. What this new RAISE Act does is it says, no, you can't come in here unless you look like that man, that man, that man, that man, and that man, the men behind me. If you look like the men standing behind me right now, you're very welcome. He sort of wants to make this the most bland melting pot in the world. And I know I don't have to remind you, but I will. The inscription on the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor reads this: "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." And that is America. Not this, you can only come here if you speak English and you're massively educated. The whole idea of America is that these poor, uneducated people can come here, get an education, and pull themselves out of the gutter. That is the American dream. And I think we can sum up this whole policy in the words of a politician from a few years back, and that is, I quote, "The more economic difficulties increase, the more immigration will be seen as a burden. The workers seal themselves off more than others as a way of building a protective wall against cheap labor. The newcomer, after all, must be either cheaper or better." End quote. And that, I think, sums up this whole act perfectly. Oh, and the politician that said that, if you're wondering, was Adolf Hitler, 1939. Anyway, we are out of time, so thank you so much for listening. We'll chat again tomorrow. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's SoThisHappen. And, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast if you indeed like it. And if you don't, let me know, because, like I always say, it keeps my ego in check. Anyway, we'll chat again tomorrow. Bye.